Psycho killer. Wait, who is it? Oh my god, it's Tommaso Ciampa. Here in the land of all elite. After a decade working in World Wrestling Entertainment Television, he's now in the land of all elite. I'm John Renton with my review of AEW Dynamite from the HEB Center at Cedar Park in Cedar Park, Texas. Apparently, according to one very good friend of mine, a suburb of Austin. By God, Austin's whipping him like a government mule. Unfortunately, JR was not on this program. He probably shouldn't travel all that much and should be just used for occasional shows. That being said, let's talk about this show. It was certainly an episode of Dynamite that had elements that I liked, and then there were things that just basically made me not like those elements because there are certain things that Tony Khan just refuses to get away from. So anyway, they had around 3,000 or so people, and I will say the crowd was pretty alive, all things considered. And I do also want to say before I go on, one, abolish ICE, fuck ICE. Fuck Donald Trump, fuck the fact if you even agree with anything that he wants to do because you're just as much of a monster as he is. But for those that are suffering through the various, parts of the storm that hit all along, from Texas all the way to the East Coast, I hope you all are being as safe as possible, staying as warm as possible. Power outages, winter storms, they're a bitch. I've dealt with many of them up here in the Pacific Northwest. They absolutely 1,000% suck. So anyway, what didn't suck was the opening match. Kenny Omega against Rocky Romero, jumpstart by Rocky. Kenny did his stuff. It is very clear that Kenny knows he is almost done. Because he's able to do some, just have flashes of being the old Kenny Omega. The problem is, he's old Kenny Omega. And apparently Samoa Joe was injured while training. Joe might want to consider, going to commentary in the next year and a half or so. Because he's still believable as far as a monster. But the thing is, Father Time waits for no man. So anyway, a couple V-triggers, one wing angel, there you go. And then Shivani got in the ring and Taz asked who's been dressing Shivani lately. And I was like, okay, maybe the bright yellow thing, bright yellow tie or whatever is a little bit much. Oh, the shoes. I mean, seriously, Shivani, what in the world? So anyway, people in the world title mix are Kenny Omega, Hangman Page, Swerve, and Andrade. I have a question. Why is Andrade in the world title mix when he just came back after that bullshit that WWE TKO tried to pull? I mean, why? I guess they need just somebody there. They're not short on wrestlers or short on talent, but still. Nevertheless, Kenny basically says, whether I hate somebody or love somebody, it's just business. I'll go through anyone. Here's Hangman. He recounts all that we've seen in a promo that had flashes of, okay, this seems genuine, and then we're going right back to stagey. It's like, I will win, not you, not Andrade, not Swerve. Here's Swerve. Why was Swerve going to ravage anyone? I think that's a crime. Granted, crime is celebrated on this program with breaking into houses and terrorizing children and the burning of houses down and all the blood drinking and whatnot. But still, maybe don't ravage people. That's kind of wrong. And then Callis shows up. And yeah, I'm very much over Don Callis being so, prevalent and prominent on this program because he's adding nothing, and I'll explain why here in a bit. Pre-tape on the women in the title mix, a Triangle of Madness wanting to go for the tag titles and the women's title. And then Jon Moxley, speaking of titles, the title of Dick the Boozer goes to Jon Moxley against Ace Austin, and it's an AEW Continental Classic something or other. Moxley won about 10 minutes. You think I'm going to pay attention to anything Jon Moxley's involved in after all the bullshit with the Death Riders and the numerous bad finishes, bad promos, bad matches? I don't care. I am off of the Jon Moxley stuff. I don't wish him ill, but I do not wish to watch him work because I'm over his shit. And then Takeshita showed up. Yes, please have Takeshita take this from Jon Moxley. Just do something. Get it on somebody that actually could elevate the championship. Oh, and then Jake Doyle and Mark Davis attacked Jon Moxley. More on them in a bit. Mark Briscoe took on El Colon. I'll just call him El Colon instead of El Colon like I have, because the guy doesn't suck, but It's another mask gimmick where whatever the guy can do, okay. It's something that makes sense to Tony Khan. So it's a TNT on TBS title match. At least that's what I'm calling it. Look, Don Callis joined commentary. And here's the thing. The Don Callis family and the Death Riders feuding with each other is like the Dungeon of Doom against the NWO B team. And maybe not even that good. Because I don't care if there are people I like on, in both these factions. And it's much more towards the Don Callis family that I like a lot more people than the Death Riders. Granted, there's about 18 million people in the Don Callis family. But I'm over the stuff with Don Callis because he has not evolved as a commentator since his Cyrus stuff in ECW, which was around when I was 18 and 19 years old. And also, just Callis offers nothing of note at all. They love Mark Briscoe. This didn't suck, but what took me out of it was just the stuff with the chair. And I know it sounds like a nitpicking thing, because I know it's something Briscoe does. But then El Colon picks it up and is going to throw it at him. And if this was anything involving like actual referee stuff, and this goes to New Japan, this goes to WWE, this goes to TNA, which is a satellite WWE, AEW, whatever, they need to start enforcing some goddamn rules of why even have the referees. So they did some chops, they did some good athletic stuff. El Colon can work, but I just find him to be another nameless mask guy or, generic mask guy. Mark Briscoe is good, but Mark Briscoe's, got Father Time nipping at his heels. He's got a few years left. He went with a roll-up. Briscoe wants another challenger not in the Don Callis family. So who will step up? Lights out, and we got music, we got a video, and we got quite a bit of it. They had time to sync this up and everything, almost like everybody knew this was going to happen. And Psycho Killer and the fans popped. They knew. It's Tommaso Ciampa, who announced he was going to leave WWE when his contract was up. And I didn't know when his contract was up. Evidently, it was up just recently because he didn't waste no goddamn time. He's in AEW. And you know what? Fine. He doesn't have a lot of time left because of the numerous injuries, the neck injury, and other stuff that he's had. But this probably would work better for him to be there instead of teaming with the Garden Gnome, Johnny Gargano. And I know they're friends, but still, Ciampa is the one that they probably could feature as a single star a little bit better. And they gave him a big entrance, pyro. Cool. The problem is he's going to be facing Mark Briscoe on Collision, and apparently for the TNT title, and I'm sorry, unless Ciampa's going to win, and this would be undercutting what Mark Briscoe did with the championship, unless he's going to win, unless they do some kind of fluky finish thing where they do like a DQ finish to protect Ciampa, it's kind of bullshit he's going to do a job. So speaking of jobs, I felt like going and working an odd job or throwing a hat like odd job at like somebody that decided to book this stuff because Okada and Fletcher were talking about, the stuff with the screwdriver and everything at World's End. I just wanted to win. Kyle accepts the apology. We got no bitch. We just got MJF coming out and getting a good reaction. Thank God, a star. Jesus, thank you. A star I want to see. And he starts around down the town and stuff like that, and even mentions Taz. Taz, why are we working in a, crap town like this? As if Taz has offered anything to this program in the last couple of years, and I'm glad he recovered from whatever surgery he had, but still, here's Brody King, lots of barking. MJF knocks the House of Black following Malachi Black, because Malachi now is back in WWE doing the Aleister Black stuff with his wife. They seem happy, good for them. Kind of off that train. And he makes fun of Buddy's name. Buddy Matthews, a name that strikes fear in the hearts. And yeah, you know where he's hearing that. And you know what he's saying. And you know that he listens to that podcast. And you don't like that he listens to that because he's so good at what he does. Those who know, you know. And also MJF's just very glib and very capable of, when he's not just going for the lowest of lows to really try and bring something out of it, when he has something to work with, he's very good. And then he knocks Brody saying, I've never seen a liberal man who looks more like a Nazi than you. He ain't wrong. But Brody King, of course, the Abolish Ice stuff and everything, he has more merch like that. Support and make sure you keep filming Ice and shame them. Shame every single one of them. Shame every single person from the recent recruits all the way to the bigwigs, and make sure that they know, because you can humiliate them and you can do a lot of great things by humiliating everybody and making sure that the people in ICE know that they are not welcome in this country. And if, again, you agree with what ICE is doing, you have not been paying attention to the news, or you've been paying attention to right-wing crackpot stuff, and you should not be allowed, quite frankly, to have a voice. So that being said, he calls Brody a follower, not just a leader. And then, you haven't beat that many people. And to be fair, Brody's been beating tomato cans recently. John Cruz, who apparently is Serpentico unmasked. Put the mask back on. So anyway, Brody said he had a meeting with Tony Khan, and the best person for him to face to prove that he's worthy is MJF in an eliminator match, and if Brody wins that, he's going to win the title in Australia. So Brody's going to lose. Unless they really want to build this up and have him do the job in Australia, Brody that is, because I love Brody King. There's no way he's winning that title. So anyway, then we have Thekla, who took on Chris Statlander for the AEW Women's Championship. And while I don't have a ton to say about this, it's my favorite match of the goddamn show, because of big fight feel. It starts with Thekla slapping Statlander. Can I be next? And Statlander's very strong. A nice delayed suplex outside. Thekla's very good with her offense, the spider suplex. I did note that it took Statlander forever to do the 450. Maybe stop doing that. And I know she's had knee issues. She's had, one torn ACL, came back, had another torn ACL, and she's very athletic, but she doesn't need to do that except in big matches. I'm just giving my opinion as a fan. I've never worked a match. I'm never going to claim that I'm an expert on this stuff. I just care about people's well-being. I promise you that theme will continue here. But anyway, a spear, and couldn't quite get the 3 count. A spider trap, octopus stretch, whatever. A stomp for 2. Nice counters. We got a gut wrench bomb. And then the Wednesday Night Fever, whatever. 1, 2, 3. Good match. Best match on the goddamn show by a landslide. And then Megan and Penelope showed up because they want the tag titles, because that's what we need. We need Penelope competing for gold in 2026. We need to give Megan a competent partner. Penelope can be a manager. Penelope just doesn't, no. So anyway, Callis is telling Briscoe, even though Briscoe's not there, hey, Kyle wants the TNT title. Why? Is this a way to get Kyle away from the Callis family? Why are we revisiting this? We don't need to. And I know that he said they were 3-3 in matches. Who cares? Jungle Boy then got taken out by the Demand. Ricochet's at least leaning into the fact that he's a fucking douche nozzle, and not a lot of people really like to hear him talk or look at him, except Sam, who didn't make the pants too long, by the way, but there we are. So, I'm sorry, Ricochet and Jungle Boy in a feud. I can't think of a feud I care about less. Oh, wait, yeah, I can. The following one I'm going to talk about. This isn't a feud, but it's going to lead to a feud. FTR with a child in a wheelchair, that's Stokely, that joined commentary, so automatically I stopped caring. And they took on Davis and Doyle. The match was what it was. It wasn't bad, and things were cooking until they did a stupid apron spot, and Jake Doyle apparently tore his bicep. Said he tore his bicep. That's why apron spots are fucking stupid, and that's why people should stop doing them so goddamn much. I don't care what company it is. I don't care if it's the indies. I don't care if it's big leagues. Minimize the impact on your bodies, because you're not going to be able to do this shit forever. Now, he just got there. And I mean, there's no good time for an injury, but my God. The Callis family has more injured members than anybody. Brian Cage is part of it. He's injured. Wardlow might as well just go and work in Hollywood, because I don't think he's going to be able to wrestle again, because he gets hurt every time he breathes. And now Doyle's out in a torn bicep. Minimum 4 months, possibly 7 to 8. Depends on the severity of it. Hopefully he's going to be okay, but my God. Yeah, the Death Riders then showed up, and FTR won. I hate this feud. I hate this feud between the Death Riders and the Callis family so much. And then they had Orange Cassidy and Yuta having mic time. I don't care if this continues to come off as me repeating myself, but anybody that keeps giving Wheeler Yuta mic time needs to be immediately banned from professional wrestling. This useless waste of skin, bones, DNA, blood, whatever, this waste of resources, this waste of everything. Why is he allowed to talk? Goddamn, Cousin It talked better in the Addams Family and somehow had less hair on him. But just somebody test Tony Khan for cognitive issues. Like, again, why is he there? I mean, and apparently they're going to have a mixed tag. It's going to be Orange Cassidy and Tony Storm against Yuta and Shafir, because I will not be watching Collision. I mean, I was going to do something else anyway, but no, I'm not going to, no. If you think that a Wheeler-Yuta match is going to get me to watch this goddamn... I already watched him against Darby, and Darby didn't immediately squish this fucking dweeb, this waste of space, this embarrassment, this goddamn, frickin' collection of just goddamn tumorous, benign stuff. Anyway, yeah, Ole versus everyone, Bischoff versus Flair, Brett versus Bill Goldberg, Austin versus his wives, me versus Yuta. Probably should have added that previous one, but whatever. And Andrade took on Swerve in a match that I wanted to care about, but then Callis joined commentary, and the show is repetitive, is what I noted. They did good stuff. Andrade can work, but I'm kind of over him. Swerve kind of feels like he's just stuck in neutral. And we get a barricade bump again. Why? That wasn't the finish. They did more stuff, and then a low blow and some kind of toss, whatever the hell won it. And then MJF is knocking Andrade. Omega shows up. And then Andrade confronts MJF. And then suddenly, Hangman confronts him. They made it seem like Hangman might have done something to the driver, but he didn't. And then he drove away. So that's it. That's all I got to say about Dynamite. Once again, at the end here, I want AEW to succeed, and I want to get enjoyment out of their television. There were things I liked on this show, but it is getting to the point where week to week I'm debating about, which ones I'll watch. And it's getting real close to me maybe just going every few weeks and maybe just the pay-per-views. So that being said, let me know your thoughts. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter, Letterboxd, Blue Sky handles in the description. I'm John Ritland. Until we revisit the Land of All Elite again with Psycho Killer, Tommaso Ciampa, hopefully having better feuds than he did in the last year of WWE. Anyway, see you soon.